Welcome back to the New Equity Network show. I'm Michael Yorba, your host and co-host. Sitting in with me in the studio, Jared Fabriello. Jared is our in-house counsel. He's also very, very, very schooled in investment banking. All right, our first guest on the show today, Jeffrey Bacha, Chairman, President, CEO, co-founder, DelMar Pharmaceuticals, symbol DMPI. Website, DelMarPharma.com. All right, Jeffrey, welcome to the show. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. All right, Jeffrey, you've got a great background in the industry. You've been doing it for a little while. Let's get a little feel for you, the man steering the boat, and then let's get right into what DelMar Pharmaceutical does when it comes to treating cancer.
Well, I appreciate your kind words, Michael. My background's originally biophysics, and spent some time in the laboratory before I guess everybody figured out it was a lot safer and beneficial if I was behind a desk rather than behind a bench. And so I ended up moving back into the academic world, studying finance, and then joining up with a large accounting firm before eventually coming back to the operating side of the world about 15 years ago and helping to start and build companies in the biotech space. And DelMar Pharmaceuticals is the latest adventure, and we started the company in 2010, took it public in 2013, and we're focused on orphan cancer indications, which are relatively rare cancers, but where there remains a huge unmet medical need. And our focus has been to identify drugs that have been previously studied in clinical trials, so we have an idea of clinical activity against one type of cancer or another, and then really dive into the biology and understand how that molecule or that drug attacks the cancer, and say, I know where it works from previous human clinical trial history. I now know how it works in a way that wasn't understood before, and I marry those two things together and ask, can I solve a problem? And if so, then we run at it as quickly as we can.
All right, let's talk about the different types of cancer that you're working on.
Sure. Well, our initial focus is a type of cancer called glioblastoma. This is unfortunately the most common and aggressive form of brain cancer. I think it became a little bit more of a household name a few years ago when Senator Ted Kennedy was stricken with and ultimately died from glioblastoma. That's also known as GBM. So that's our initial focus. And then beyond that, we're looking at things like non-small cell lung cancer and ovarian cancer and other tumor types where our lead compound has shown previous clinical activity in clinical trials that were sponsored by the National Cancer Institutes here in the U.S. But as I said, we can now modernize our understanding of the mechanism of action of the drug and then point it where we think we can solve a problem and hopefully benefit patients.
How does the drug work?
Well, it's actually a very simple molecule. It's called a cytotoxic agent, or in fact, the subclass is an alkylating agent, which simply means that it binds to DNA. And our drug essentially forms a link between the two strands of DNA at a certain point, and when the DNA tries to copy itself so that the tumor cell can replicate and the tumor itself can grow, those two strands being bound together break, and the tumor cell is guided toward what's called apoptosis or cell death. It's a very simple mechanism. You think about almost like stapling the two strands of DNA together in a way that's relatively permanent, and the body can't repair that, and it's quite effective in terms of activity against the tumor.
What is the time frame or process for treatments from beginning to end to get to this process where we're actually killing the cancer or allowing it to die?
Well, in the case of glioblastoma, and unfortunately this is one of the types of cancers that has really been left behind with all of the exciting developments and benefits that have come along in terms of research and new therapies. The life expectancy of someone who's diagnosed with glioblastoma, on average, unfortunately, is still well under 2 years. And the challenge is because the current drugs that are out there, there's resistance to them. And also most drugs can't reach a tumor in the brain. There's something called the blood-brain barrier, which is very effective in keeping things away from the central nervous system. So if somebody is diagnosed with glioblastoma, the first thing that will be done usually is surgery. The surgeon will go in and remove as much of the tumor as possible. Unfortunately, because this is a tumor in the brain, you can't take a wide margin of healthy tissue around the tumor in order to make sure you get it all. So the recurrence after surgery is nearly 100%, unfortunately. So the therapy that is follows surgery is a combination of radiation and a drug called Temodar, or temozolomide. This is a drug that was launched originally by Merck, and it does about $1 billion a year in sales in glioblastoma historically. Unfortunately, most patients have a repair enzyme, a resistance mechanism, that means that chemotherapy is not going to be very effective. And so their tumor will continue to come back and grow in spite of the radiation and chemotherapy with Temodar. Some patients will receive a drug called Avastin as second-line therapy. Unfortunately, Avastin's never been shown to impact survival. And then beyond that, there's really not much that can be done. And that's where we come in. We know that the drug was active in previous human clinical trials with the NCI. And what we've been able to demonstrate is that the way that our drug attacks the tumor is different than Temodar. It's subtly different, but it means that the repair enzyme that causes resistance in 2/3 of the patients to Temodar doesn't affect the activity of our drug. So we can go in where Temodar is going to fail, or where Temodar is not going to work, and hopefully attack that tumor in a new way and benefit the patient, and hopefully shrink the tumor and impact their survival in a good way.
Okay, where are you on the clinical validation, the clinical trials there? Because I know that you've got a strong history of data, and you're using it as a platform to build a strategy for these current programs.
Right. So the strategy is as you indicated, to leverage the historical clinical research that was done at the National Cancer Institute back here in the United States a few years back. So there are over 40 clinical publications around this drug, and a lot of them are in central nervous system tumors and in glioblastoma. So we have evidence that the drug is active against glioblastoma from history. And what we've done is sort of optimize the dosing regimen, and are now in a position to have chosen the dosing regimen that we want to move forward into a phase 2/3 registration-directed trial, which we will begin a little bit later this year. And we anticipate that'll take about a year to enroll, and from there would be looking at seeking approval from the FDA.
Okay, all right. Now, you've got DelMar has a lead drug candidate, VAL-083, right?
That's correct.
All right, and that's for GBM, right?
Initially GBM, but like I said, we're looking at other tumor types where the data directs us.
Okay, all right. The other tumor types, can you give our audience a flavor for how diverse the use of the drug can be on, and what the effectiveness so far on the clinical trials is?
Well, like I said, in the NCI's hands, this
Right.
drug had demonstrated activity in a number of different tumor types, including glioblastoma, but also including things like lung cancer, ovarian cancer, and others. Mm-hmm. So the next place that we are looking to explore in the modern sense clinically is in non-small cell lung cancer. And one of the things that's interesting about this particular drug is it actually happens to be approved in China for a type of leukemia and for lung cancer. We didn't start out looking for a Chinese drug. We weren't actually really cognizant of that approval. And we were basing all of our strategy and excitement around data from the National Cancer Institutes here in the United States. And it was when we started looking for someone to work with on the manufacturing front that we learned that a company called Guangxi Wuzhou Pharmaceuticals in China was actually making it. They had invested in commercial scale production because the drug was approved there. So at first we just asked the question, can we work with the company who's made all of this investment in manufacturing? Can we use that product in our clinical trials here in the United States? And fortunately, the answer to that was yes. The FDA agreed with us, and we're able to use that product from that manufacturer in our clinical trials here. And then we started to ask, what next? What's beyond glioblastoma? And non-small cell lung cancer continues to be a large unmet medical need. There's resistance to the current therapies. There are subsets and subtypes of non-small cell lung cancer which are not well served by today's therapies. And so we began doing research with folks at MD Anderson down there near you in Texas, as well as the University of California, as well as the British Columbia Cancer Agency, to really drill into
Jeffrey?
The subtypes of lung cancer, and that's where we'll go next.
Good. Let's talk about that on the other side of the break. We've got to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back, all right?
Very good.
You're welcome. We'll be right back with Jeffrey Bacha, Chairman, President, CEO, co-founder of DelMar Pharmaceuticals, DelMarPharma.com, symbol DMPI.